attacks can happen. And I think that's one thing Pete Williams was talking about earlier this week, how they're worried about type of lone wolf inspired events. And while this was much more calculated and much more connective tissue organized with the cells here, that is a problem with lone wolves being able to take this up and see, and not a 9/11 style attack, but they can still cause major chaos at an event, an example like the Boston Marathon. But this is something that the FBI, while they're not saying that this is something that we feel is totally valid, it's on their radar. So they're making a statement about it. So we'll wait and see how it goes. And 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night, we know that one event is going to be taking place in Atlanta. They have no plans to cancel it.
And I think probably, I haven't seen anything, but I'm guessing that at NFL stadiums around the country, as we saw last week, there'll be a little more attention. Any place that you get those kinds of huge crowds, that could indeed, as you say.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Thomas Roberts, good to have you here.
Thanks,
Thank you
Chris.
so much. In the meantime, new threats of violence today in an ISIS video just released. Now, it's nothing ISIS hasn't promised before, but in the wake of the Paris attacks, the new video is chilling. It warns that members are scattered across Europe's capital cities, poised to act. And joining me now, former U.S. intelligence officer Malcolm Nance, who is the executive director of the Terror Asymmetrics Project. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here, whether it's here in Europe, in the United States, is this fine line that officials walk between wanting to make sure people are vigilant, want to let them know if there's anything out there that might be of concern, but not cause any undue panic. How do they walk that line, Malcolm?
Well, they're going to have to walk the line with the assistance of the news media. In fact, ISIS is releasing these videos specifically to invoke a sense of panic throughout the world. And it's very calculated, it's very well done. And you notice that every time the news media watches a video in Paris and they see a reference to New York City, the next day or 2 days later, there's a video of New York City, or there's a verbal threat of Washington, D.C. It's very easy to do that. So the FBI has to take threats seriously. And I recently had a briefing with the FBI. They take all threats seriously. They are more interested in the lone wolf, or a hybrid of a professional and a lone wolf marrying up and carrying out an attack. But it's very difficult, and it requires vigilance.
Let me go back to what's happening here now, because after the Paris attacks, it didn't take investigators long to trace a trail back to Brussels, which has become a hub of illegal arms traffic. Several attackers were based there. Why Belgium?
Well, Belgium has a lot of advantages for a terrorist trafficker. Let's talk about the logistics end, where weapons, drugs, money, things like that come through. First off, you have large ports, in Belgium. Also, it is not France. It is not a country of 66 million homogenous people. What you have generally is a very, very small country, which is not on the center of the radar screen. It does have a large expatriate Muslim population, but within that, it appears that ISIS and Al-Qaeda ideologues seem to have found a place where they could operate in total secrecy, as well as have access ways to the European black market. So they chose that, and they actually have one of the largest number of per capita members of ISIS in Syria fighting right now, larger than the French per capita. So that's why they chose that, and they have the same language in the southern part.
Meantime, it's an Al-Qaeda linked group, not ISIS, that's claimed responsibility for yesterday's attack in Mali. Of course, do you think two totally separate attacks, or is there any reason to think that Al-Qaeda was emboldened by ISIS's high-profile attack?
Well, the way the terrorists, team leaders actually have to plan these missions, it's very hard to go on a moment's notice and just drop what you're doing, get your weapons, go out to a target. They may have had these targets surveilled for a long period of time, and they may have been emboldened. They might have thought, this is the time to strike French interest inside of Mali. We've been set up for this for a while. We did it a few months ago at another hotel, the Byblos Hotel in Savane. Let's try it again. So I think that what we do have is a sort of competition, maybe even some envy and jealousy going on between groups, but they still have to do it within the operational timelines so that they don't fail in these missions.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a game of one-upsmanship, the danger is obvious. Is there any way for the coalition to use that to their advantage?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think what you're seeing in Brussels right now is a good example of us using this competitive edge that these two have on each other, for each other, against them. What's happening in Brussels is what we call a disruptive operation. Quite clearly, they had hard intelligence on where these things were going to occur. Everywhere that you see heavy armor forces, everywhere that you see that it's closed, like the metro, they must have had intelligence that there was going to be a mission there. I'm just watching the news footage today. They have snipers in strategic places, which means they want the terrorists to know that something's going on there. The question is, will now the Al-Qaeda and the ISIS adherents communications networks respond to that? And if they do, they're actually opening themselves up to more intelligence collection and greater ability to be penetrated and broken. So I think right now you'll probably see in Europe these groups lay low unless they feel very adventurous. And the Belgians and the French are more than willing right now to take them on.
Malcolm Nance, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
It's my
France
pleasure.
is the world's leading tourist destination. An estimated 83 million tourists come here every year, according to the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And officials had hoped to increase that number to 100 million by 2030. So the question remains, will the recent attacks thwart that goal, or will the effects be short-lived?
Hey, can I pass a message?
MSNBC business correspondent Stearns has been talking to some tourists and local business owners about this. What are they telling you?
Well, you know, of course, there has been a sharp, immediate drop-off in tourism. Restaurants did about half of their normal business last week. Hotels saw their bookings fall by 60 to 70%. This is all according to the president of the Union for Hotels and Restaurants here in Paris. We also went down to the tourist boats on the Seine that are normally full, even in chilly November, with passengers. They said 80% of their group bookings have now been canceled, and school groups have canceled for the rest of the year because officials have decided it's just not safe enough to bring a group of small children into the capital city here of Paris. I did, though, find one American couple who saw the attacks on TV. They were nervous, of course. They hesitated for a moment, but they decided to come anyway. And take a listen to what they had to say.
I don't know that you're in any more danger here than you would be anywhere else. I mean, the death by gun rate here is 1/3 what it is in the U.S. You know, it's 10 point something per 100,000 in the U.S. It's under 3 here. So I think you're as safe in Paris as you are anywhere.
Is your family worried that you decided to make the trip?
Nobody said so. I don't think. No.
What would you say to people who have a trip planned to Paris but now are thinking, maybe I should cancel?
If you're an American, I say show a little backbone, will you? I mean, these guys are our longest standing allies, and I don't think anything bad's going to happen to you here.
And you know, of course, Chris, they did say they saw heavily armed guards outside all the sites they went to, such as the Louvre, the Eiffel Tower, and Notre Dame. They said it was a little bit frightening, but also, frankly, reassuring.
You know, I was trying to remember after 9/11, it didn't seem like it took that long for people to start coming back. But what is that sort of the historical record when we've had these kinds of incidents, and how long the effects are felt?
Well, I remember particularly in New York in 9/11, the city did a lot to bring tourism back, and that really took a while. But if you look at London, perhaps that's a closer example. 2005, the terrorist bombings on the bus and the tube there. The city bounced back quite quickly, and this was also the concern back in January after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, that tourism would be awash for all of 2015, but that has not turned out to be the case until now. 2015 was on track to be the best year yet for tourism, but of course that was a very targeted attack. This feels much more random, so it all depends if anything else happens. Of course, the same president of the Union for Hotels and Restaurants said for December, hotels are expecting to do about 1/3 less business, and restaurants another 1/3 less business, in particular because people are calling to cancel their holiday parties.
Olivia, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Authorities here in France able to tell a lot by the suicide vests and belts used by the attackers. That story when we return.
You can't predict the market, but at T. Rowe Price, we can help guide your investments through good times and bad. For over 75 years, our clients have relied on us to bring our best thinking to their investments. So in a variety of market conditions, you can feel confident in our experience. Call a T. Rowe Price retirement specialist or your advisor to see how we can help make the most of your retirement savings. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
When heartburn hits, fight back fast. Tums Smoothie starts dissolving the instant it touches your tongue and neutralizes stomach acid at the source. Smoothies, only from Tums.
Conquer the weather. Don't let it conquer you. With the capability and adaptability of Lexus All-Weather Drive. This is the pursuit of perfection.
Whoever combined Report Card Day with a Monday must either love Mondays or hate children. Nah, well, nothing to cracking open a can of Manwich and a few books can't solve. Manwich your Monday.
This is Brad. His day of coaching begins with knee pain when...
Hey, Brad, want to trade the all-day relief of 2-Aleve for 6 Tylenol?
What's the catch?
There's no catch.
You want me to give up my 2-Aleve for 6 Tylenol? No. For my knee pain, nothing beats my Aleve.
Every insurance policy has a number, but not every insurance company understands the life behind it. For those who've served and the families who've supported them, we offer our best service in return. USAA, we know what it means to serve. Get an insurance quote and see why 92% of our members plan to stay for life.
Whatever you do when you travel, do more of it when you stay at Days Inn. Comfy rooms, free Wi-Fi, free healthy options breakfast. Business or pleasure, Days Inn is the best value under the sun.
Stay 2 nights, save 20%, and get Wyndham Rewards bonus points at daysinn.com.
Lock Up Sacramento tonight at 10 on MSNBC. And experience Lockup in virtual reality. Learn more at msnbc.com/lockup360.
Welcome back to MSNBC Live, and at this moment, some new information on the international search for this man, Salah Abdeslam. The lawyer for a man who rode back to Belgium with a suspected Paris attacker says Abdeslam was extremely nervous and may have been wearing a suicide bomb vest. We'll have the latest details on the manhunt as they come in. Suicide bombs strapped to terrorists played a big role in the attacks in Paris and raised questions about the ISIS operation, specifically about the group's bomb makers. We're joined by Henry Morgenstern. He's with Security Solutions International and is an expert on the topic of bomb making. Good to see you. And I'm wondering, so we've had 8 days now. They've had a chance to look at the explosives, what's left of them at the various sites here in Paris. What will they be able to tell from looking at that?
Well, Chris, good to be with you. They'll be looking at the materials that were used, which leave traces, of course, the mechanisms and the detonators that were used to build those vests. As far as I know, the vests were made from TATP, which is triacetone triperoxide, and as you're probably very aware, it's all over the internet. It's been around for a long time, and it's very easy to make. Having said that, it's unstable, and that can work in our favor because there are a number of accidents related to that explosive.
Didn't seem to be accidents in this case, though. At least the early indications would seem to be, and from the outside looking in addition to what we have heard from officials, is that these were very well timed. Obviously, they didn't go off any other time, but when they intended them to. So if this is a sophisticated bomb maker, will there be, as people have often written, some sort of signature? Will they be able to tell who likely, or at least narrow it down to who might be behind making them?
Yes, they can very much pinpoint if there are specific components being used. But Chris, I would just caution against considering the bomb maker to be the key, as it was. I'm an Israeli American. In the 90s and the early parts of the 2000s, Israel was fixed on bomb makers and spent a considerable amount of time taking them out. Unfortunately today, and that's why I think the distinction between the lone wolf and the organized attack has become meaningless. Look at the Boston Marathon bombers. All this information is available through their own publications like The Beak and through the internet. So anybody can really put together a suicide vest. It's not that complicated an undertaking. What we need to do, I think, is enlist, instead of people becoming worried and panicked, enlist people in being more aware. Because again, it's the smartest weapon in the world. If you fire a missile, it goes towards its target. If a suicide bomber goes out one day, he can turn around and come back the next day if he doesn't like what he sees. So I think that it's something that we have to create awareness of in our country, and keep ourselves very vigilant and be able to detect things that are not right.
You know, if anyone's traveled to Israel, they will know, for example, that one of the things you look for on a bus is someone wearing a coat at a time when that would be inappropriate, when it's too warm out. You do, when you live in a place like Israel or you visit frequently to a place like that, become very aware. But beyond the old see something, say something, if you're in an airport and you see an unattended bag, what can people do? What would you say to people? What can they look for?
Well, the very first thing they should do is never touch anything. It's extremely dangerous. For example, the chemical that was used in the explosions in Paris can be set off instantly by an impact. So just touching it could set it off. The first thing to do is to call, first of all, familiarize yourself, your family, with who to call in your area. There are perfectly available numbers for fusion centers and for people that know what to do. And of course, there's 911. But do, first of all, if you see something suspicious, don't be afraid to let your instincts guide you. Call 911 and tell them that what you see. That may cause bomb squads and law enforcement and first responders a little bit more work, but that's preferable to the alternative.
Henry Morgenstern, good talking to you. Thanks so much for being with us.
Chris, thank you.
Up next, President Obama condemning yesterday's terror attack on a hotel in Mali. 20 innocent people, including an American, are dead. An author and filmmaker who knows that country well joins me to discuss what happened and why the region appears to be so vulnerable to terror.
It's back.
Nissan's holiday event, now with special Black Friday offers.
Right now, save up to $1,000 bonus cash on top of existing offers on select models. Shop your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com.
Here at AXA, we believe that when it comes to helping you reach your financial goals, taking small, manageable steps can be an effective and enjoyable approach compared to the alternatives.
Hush! I am pushing.
How you doing, Eddie?
Almost there.
Small steps. At AXA, we'll help you take the next steps with more confidence. For advice, retirement, and insurance, talk to AXA today.
Why is it we love superheroes? And why is it we always put capes on them and make them fly? Truth is, some heroes don't fly. They drive trucks. And they show up when you need them most. Face your worst case scenarios and stay at your side through every step. When you don't know what to do next, we do. We're Service Master Restore, every disaster's worst nightmare.
In the summertime.